Hello everybody and welcome back to my war. Typically on this series I set out to show off my favorite invasions and the plays that allowed me to win or the plays that cost me the victory. But we sort of take an in-depth look at the best of the best invasions that I have. But as with the last installment of this series, where my war was won against Poise, today I wanted to discuss the actual player base itself and my war with misconceptions. Of course, I'm still going to be showing off some invasion clips because, let's face it, that's why you're probably here. And hey, I'm pretty good at it. So, I think the first thing I want to put out there in this video is that we're all here because we like Dark Souls. You might be like me. You think there are things that could make the game better, but overall you're happy that a game like this even exists, much less is as popular as it is, and has as active a player base as it does. And as an extension of that, I would posit that a big part of your enjoyment of this game comes from the fact that it doesn't force you to play a certain way. It treats you like a person. It treats you like a human being with a fucking functioning brain. You know, it doesn't treat you like a child that needs to be told exactly what to do in order to succeed. And as a result, our success often feels like we earned it. And that's the best feeling that Dark Souls can give us, is the feeling of natural improvement. We don't have to rely on the game to show us, a big flashing enemy weak spot. It doesn't have to pull up a map and point out exactly where we need to go. Is it a little cryptic with NPC quest lines and mechanics and stuff like that? Yeah, sure, absolutely. But understanding something in the game, figuring something out, learning from your mistakes, and then winning as a result of your new knowledge, of your understanding. That's the best feeling in the world. And I would argue that that is why a lot of us like this game so much. Me personally, that's pretty much the extent of it. And I know, just based off of the general consensus of reviews and the things people say online. You know what I mean? I know that that's a big part of why people like Dark Souls. It's a big part of why this game is as popular as it is. Now, on the flip side of that coin, when the game teaches us something, our tutor is death. Our mentor is the loading screen. Something in Dark Souls is going to kill you. You don't get to pick what it is. You don't get to pick what it is that you don't understand. You don't get like any kind of cheat sheet. It's just there. The game is what it is, and it doesn't force you to play a certain way, but it does force you to learn. It forces you to figure out that unlike most other video games, this is Dark Souls. You're going to have to play it like it's Dark Souls. You, as a person, are responsible for your own success. That's why it feels good to succeed in Dark Souls, right? Now, sometimes the thing that kills you is another player, because again, that's part of Dark Souls. I'm not going to go on as big of a rant as I tend to go on when this gets brought up, but I am going to bring it up. The reason that Dark Souls PvP is not balanced, and it's not as 1v1 focused as Dark Souls 2 PvP is because I don't believe that that was ever the intention of the game. This game was not meant to be played with one-on-one duels over the course of a long period of time. There's nothing wrong with playing the game that way if you get any enjoyment out of it. If you enjoy it, then that's great. But I think, and this is nothing against the try-hard community, but you can tell they don't enjoy it as much as those of us who like to invade. Now, that's not to say that tryhards don't enjoy invasions. Someone like Nif, for example, who absolutely can shine in a try-hard situation, also enjoys invasions because, I'm assuming, of the organic feel that invasion PvP gives you, as opposed to that of the rigid mind games required in the try-hard duel circuit, right? And a lot of steps were taken backwards in Dark Souls 3. Me, as a fan of Bloodborne, I say that in terms of combat and move sets and how many things a weapon is capable of doing, how many things each one weapon is capable of performing. Dark Souls 2 people, people who really fell in love with PvP in Dark Souls 2, for them, it's the balance. The fact that you could go into the arena with a different build and even just slight stat adjustments or a change in, from one weapon to another could be a huge, huge difference. That's a step back that I think Dark Souls 3 took. But that's just my personal opinion. Now, I don't think that that step back was intentionally made so that the game would be worse. I just think that when Miyazaki is in charge of a game, to him, PvP is meant to be experienced as this impromptu, surprise sort of, where the invader is a part of the challenge of the level and not, just something that you go back to a bonfire and have a duel with. That I don't think that was ever his intention. And we can look to how healing works in games where Miyazaki is in charge of PvP versus in Dark Souls 2, where the only way for an invader to heal was via miracles. So, to get back on topic, sometimes the thing that kills you in this game is another player. And it's hard to find a game like that that isn't just solely a PvP game. But that's where the disconnect, no pun intended, that's where the great disconnect comes from. That's where people draw the line. That's where everyone either starts to get upset on one side of the argument or the other. And as far as that argument is concerned, I oftentimes take a neutral stance on the invader versus host debate, and I'll tell you why. It's because I don't agree with the arguments that I'm hearing on either side. You'll never hear me complain about gank squads or multiplayer or four-person co-op groups. I'll never bitch about that, because something in Dark Souls is going to kill me. Sometimes it's another player. Sometimes it's a group of players. Now, on the other side, I don't think people who want to just PvE or, God forbid, have, quote, uninterrupted co-op with their friends, end quote, I don't think they should complain about invaders. And not just for the bullshit reason that we typically hear or say ourselves, just part of the game. Yeah, it's part of the game. Sure, absolutely. And yeah, that's a good enough reason for both sides of the argument, right? But there's a simpler, more core value at the base of this argument that both sides are founded upon. This is Dark Souls, and something is going to kill you. You're going to die in order to learn, whether that be to a gank squad or a try-hard invader, a lucky dark sword shield of want combo, or the fucking Dragon Slayer armor. Something in this game is going to kill you. So why then do both sides take it so personally, when really the only thing on the line is bragging rights and what silly gesture your opponent is going to do over your corpse? I mean, no one likes getting memed on. Hosts, invaders, phantoms, we all share this in common. No one likes to get griefed. It isn't fun, and all the memers are doing is pointing out basic shortcomings in a game that we love. But some people are like that. And some people are so incapable of understanding that societal norms and social cues, they end up forever alone in their mother's basement, eating pizza rolls and living off their dead parents' social security checks they forge a signature onto for the rest of their lives. Pizza rolls do sound good, though. But I digress. I don't meet a lot of memers in Dark Souls. I mean, I hate the ones I do meet, but mostly, I just have good experiences with other players who like this game as much as I do. And whether I give you a cheeky point down or a respectful bow, and let's be honest, my edgelord ass is more than likely going to quiet resolve into a slow walk away, I wasn't in your world as a personal attack against you, PvEer, host of Embers. I was just chasing that Dark Souls high. I was looking for a brush with death that would bring back those feelings of the Anne Orlando Archers, or Smoen Ornstein, or the Shrine of Ormana, the Nameless King. Some of us go into New Game plus 7. Some of us do solo level 1 runs. Some of us do dried finger runs, or we try to invade into a world full of soul level 125 PvP meta phantoms. But we're all still here for the same reason. Now I'm going to have a brief aside here and sort of pause my argument for just a minute to say this might be a case of too little too late as the player base begins to dwindle. I mean, the game's been out for a year and we're all sort of standing around waiting with bated breath for E3 to see what Sony or From or Bandai Namco, we all want to know what's next, what's happening, and the player base begins to dwindle a bit. And as a result, what's left are those of us who are really into Dark Souls. But now, having said that, I still think there are people who are really into Dark Souls, and they're really not into the PvP scene. Now, here's the thing about those people. It's not as hard as it looks. There are no toggle escapes. There are no backstab chains. Really, you got nothing to worry about. You know, for as much shit as we give poise battles, and for as silly and goofy as they look and they are, Dark Souls PvP at the end of the day comes down to pressing R1, hitting your opponent, and one of you winning and one of you losing. It's as simple as that. It doesn't require a whole lot of skill, trust me. If someone like me can do this, anybody can. All it takes is just a little bit of practice. It's not fucking hard, I promise you. People like me who do this, I still look up in awe at people who do, New Game plus 7, Soul Level 1, Lady Freed boss fights. It's all the same thing. We're all, like I said, just chasing that Dark Souls high, trying to get that feeling back that we got when we first got good. But to get back to my argument, sorry guys, got a mouthful of pizza rolls. These things are fucking delicious. Something's gonna kill you in Dark Souls, and it's no big deal. Nobody gets fucking mad when they die to a hollow. You know what I mean? No one gets mad when they die to a Lothric Knight, etc., etc. So if you die to a savvy fucking invader who, happen to do some tricky cool shit, it's just part of the game. Learn from it. Move on. But have fun while you're doing it. I don't think that people who are bashing themselves over the head with a fucking controller should be playing Dark Souls. And I say that as a guy who used to bash a fucking controller over my head when I played Mario Lost Levels all those years ago. Dark Souls 1 is actually what broke me of all that overreactive bullshit. But to get back to my point, if you're an invader, quit bitching and just get good casual. This isn't hard. It doesn't matter what build you're using or which weapon is the most meta or OP. You know what I mean? There is no backstab chains. There are no more toggle escapes. There's just playing. With less than perfect builds. With less than perfect reaction times. Just out here, having fun. Doing the only thing that I know how to do. And still seeing a fair bit of success at doing it. Chasing my Dark Souls high as an invader. And to you hosts who bitch because invaders come into your world, what's the difference between me killing you and Creighton of Mira or any other NPC invader? There isn't anything. This is Dark Souls, and something was bound to kill you, sooner or later. You were bound to die, and like the dark sign that binds our characters, we too were bound to come back to this game, to fight and struggle and improve and learn, and to master that which cannot be mastered. I'm reminded of something a scholar once said. There is no path beyond the scope of light, beyond the reach of dark. What could possibly await us? And yet we seek it, insatiably. Such is our fate.